Here is our church. And here's the steeple. Open up the doors.
Not too long ago, I heard a story about a young boy who had saved up his allowance for months to buy a toy that he really wanted. But one day, he saw his neighbor struggling with groceries. He quietly slipped his savings into her mailbox instead. His parents asked him later, why did he do that? And he simply said, because she needed it more than I needed the toy. This simple act of kindness says so much about what it means to live with a generous heart. The boy gave not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Because compassion moved him. It makes me wonder, what would it look like if our identity, who we are as individuals and as a church, was defined more by giving than getting? That's what today's message is all about. Not what we have, but what we give. Our scripture today from Mark, Jesus sat down opposite the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the temple offering. Many rich people threw in large sums. And when they did, they made sure it made a clink. They made sure that everybody saw them and knew what they were giving. But the widow came and just dropped 2 small copper coins. Stuff that we'd probably walk by on the sidewalk and not even pick up. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all of the others. They gave out of their wealth. She gave out of her poverty. But in everything that she had, all that she had to live on, she gave. The story of the widow's offering teaches us something powerful. It teaches us that generosity isn't about the amount that we give, but the heart with which we give it. And that's really about all the giving that we do, whether it's to the church or a gift. It's not about the thing necessarily. It's about where our heart is when that gift leaves us. Can we give joyfully? Or do we give in fear? Or do we give in recognition? Do we want to hear the big clanks? Everybody goes, wow, look what they gave. Jesus didn't praise the wealthy donors for their impressive gifts. Instead, he pointed out the woman who gave just 2 small coins because she gave everything that she had. Her gift represented complete trust in God. Many of us can relate to that. Some of us can't. As we mature as Christians through our faith, it starts to equal and it starts to go more into that faithfulness. The Apostle Paul tells us a similar story about the churches in Macedonia. In 2 Corinthians, he writes that even though they were facing hardship, they gave joyfully and beyond their means. Their giving wasn't about the size of the offering. It was about the depth of their faith. The early church in Acts lived out this same spirit of generosity. They shared what they had so that there were no needy persons among them. Generosity from the very beginning has been at the heart of following Jesus. We live in a culture that defines us by what we own. Our house, our car, our titles, our possessions. The message we hear is, you are what you have. In all my years as a firefighter and paramedic of going into houses, from the outside we'd go into these beautiful, big, expensive homes. But when we walked through the door, there would be no furniture. Hardly any places to sit. A mattress on the floor. But the facade, the house looked like they were something. But there was no meat, no substance behind the walls. But Jesus flips that idea upside down. He teaches us that we're not defined by what we keep, but by what we give. Defined by what we give. Generosity reshapes us. That feeling of giving brings true joy. The look on someone's face when you give them a gift as they open it. That joy. Generosity reshapes us. It frees us from fear and anxiety about not having enough. It loosens the grip that possessions can have on our heart. And it draws us closer to God because God Himself is generous. And if you don't believe that, every morning when your eyes open to a new day, that is a gift from our God. When we give, we reflect the nature of the one who gave everything for us. For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son. Imagine that generosity. Our giving, whether it's time, love, or resources, becomes an act of worship. It's a declaration that our trust is not in our wallets, but in our God. Let's be honest. Generosity doesn't always come naturally. We're born a little bit stingy. How long does it teach our parents for us to share? Does sharing come natural? No, not usually. Not usually. Fear whispers in our ear, what if I don't have enough? Debt and consumerism make us feel trapped. Materialism convinces us that we'll finally be happy if we just buy one more thing. The Prime Days just went by this past week on Amazon. Boy, all the stuff. Man, there was lots of cool stuff. But I felt better with just one more stuff. Maybe in a moment. A moment of happiness. But it's not joy. There's a difference. And sometimes we fall into that someday mindset. Someday when things are better, I'll give more. but we chase that someday forever. Someday, when my career's online, I'll get married. Someday, when I have the money I need, we'll have kids. Someday. Some days rarely come. The truth is, though, generosity begins right where we are. Not someday down the road. The widow did not wait until she was more comfortable or secure. She gave in faith, trusting that God would provide. And He does. Generosity does not require abundance. It requires trust. In all of my giving, I have never feared the end of the month. God will provide. God does provide. So how can we grow in this kind of generous living? Practice first fruits giving. Give to God first, not from what's left over. It's a way of saying, Lord, I trust you first in my life. Give sacrificially. Real generosity sometimes stretches us, but that's when it changes us. We can't grow if we don't stretch. Give more than money. A lot of people say, yes, I support my church. I give, I tithe. Stewardship isn't just about tithing. It's about your time and your talents that you can offer the church, that you can offer in service to God beyond these walls. Your time, your skills, your kindness, your prayers. Generosity is a way of living, not just of giving. And God knows we need your prayers. Share your story. When we tell others of how God provides for us, we remind each other that generosity is contagious. It multiplies hope. It's not a secret to be kept. We're not talking about bragging on what you give or how much you give. It's sharing the fact that you trust the Lord that you do give. To give that message of trust and obedience to God. Maybe your next step this week is small. Offer a meal to someone. Volunteer in a way. Or increase your giving by a little. Small acts of generosity build big faith. God sees you. A member of a small congregation once shared that she decided to tithe for the first time. She didn't make more money that year, but she said, I found freedom. I worried less. I trusted more. And I felt closer to God than ever before. That's the power of generosity. It transforms us from the inside out. Generosity is not just something that we do, it's what we're called to be. When we give, we declare that God is enough. We declare that our security is not in things, but in His promises. When we open our hands, we open our hearts. And when we open our hearts, God does something extraordinary. He uses our giving to change lives, starting with our home.